Tonight's show is brought to you by Glen Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. Get ready to smile.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. Really do appreciate it. We got a lot to talk about. Of course, we are amidst yet another series between the Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets. Always a good time to get on and talk because, frankly, it's all anybody on either one of those fan bases want to talk about any given series. And this one's really important. Obviously, a 4-game set, which means you could really swing the division a little if you want to. The Mets really on a downward spiral coming into tonight. They had lost 9 out of the last 10. They've now lost 10 out of their last 11. The Braves do pull out the win, even though the Mets tried to give us a scare there at the end. The Braves do win. Spencer Strider, not his best outing, but not overall terrible. 5 innings pitched, 2 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, 8 strikeouts. For anybody else, that's really good. For Spencer Strider, that's kind of average. The bullpen overall, I thought, did okay, especially Pierce Johnson, Rafael Montero. Inyo de los Santos kind of started the wheels falling off there in the ninth. Raisel Iglesias did his best to, bring it back. And ultimately, the Braves do win, which is what we'll take. A couple things that we need to talk about, just some overlying things. Michael Harris was taken out of the game in the top of the 8th, a couple innings after being hit by a pitch on the elbow. Luckily for him, he did have the elbow guard. Obviously, the soreness seemed to ramp up there later in the game. Hate to see that. Hopefully, he'll be all right. We're going to talk about Michael Harris a little more tonight, but I just wanted to mention that. Let's talk about the good things. Number 1, Nick Allen with a 3-hit game, 3 for 4. Only a couple of weeks after Alex Anthopoulos said, what we're all thinking, that he has a light bat. And that's still true, but hey, 3 for 4 tonight, we'll take it. Big part of why the Braves won tonight in my book. But the Braves offense, you saw a different Braves offense tonight. You saw a patient offense that led to 9 walks for the Bravos tonight. Again, the bullpen was solid. The Mets, on the starter side of things, looked really good. Frankie Montas looked really solid. The bullpen, not so much. Brazoban and Castillo combined for 5 earned runs. Just not a good night for the Mets bullpen, but we'll take it. Overall thoughts, again, the Braves undefeated against the Mets so far in 2025. They are 5-0. The offense has really seemed to turn a corner. Hopefully that will continue as the Braves do have 2 more games with the Mets following a home series against the Philadelphia Phillies. Strider, I think, is continuing to improve, continuing to kind of rehab and come back from the injury that he obviously is coming back from, the UCL damage, all that good stuff. Obviously, hope Michael Harris is okay. Hopefully it's not another injury for the Braves. Hopefully it's something short-term and he's ready to go as early as tomorrow, but we don't know yet. My last takeaway is that anything is possible. And I don't mean that as just some inspirational quote you put on the wall. The Braves have shown in the past 10 or 15 games the division is not out of it. It's not out of the picture here. Which would be easy to say, as they are, I think, 10.5 games back, maybe 9.5 after tonight. I haven't looked, but they are still very much out of it. But these head-to-head matchups that before last week or so, or the week before, we haven't had with the Mets and the Phillies, they're going to be the telltale sign. Obviously, you got to show up every day, but those series are going to be really important for the Braves, either to win the division or to just make it to the playoffs. They are on a really good stride for possibly taking down the Mets. Obviously 5-0. They're on a really good start to where if this does come down to a tiebreaker, they will have that advantage. And as of right now, they're on a really good pace to do that. So all in all tonight, I thought the game was really solid for the Bravos. I thought a couple of bad takeaways. The umpire was, I'll just put it to you this way, I'm looking forward to seeing the report card here in a little while. The other thing, did y'all guys notice the camera work there in Citi Field tonight? A little rough in my book. Game 3 tomorrow, though, at 7:10 p.m. It will be Didier Fuentes in his second MLB game, taking on Clay Holmes. I'm excited to see Fuentes pitch again. Hopefully the nerves are gone. He can show off why he's in the spot he's in. We'll have to see how that goes. And then, of course, Game 4, Thursday at 7:10, you'll have Grant Holmes on the mound against Griffin Canning. Kind of an even matchup, but you got to feel pretty good anytime you have Grant Holmes on the mound, whether it be as a starter or reliever. We got a lot to talk about tonight, though. We're going to go to our first break. Make sure to like the stream. Really would appreciate it. A lot of you guys already have. We are going to get to all of your comments tonight, but we are going to go to a break really quickly. When we return, though, we're going to talk about Michael Harris. We're going to talk about Ozzie Albies, and we're going to talk about why the Braves aren't sellers. Stay with us. That's next.
In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glen Smith GMC in Opelika. New GMC Sierra 4x4 crew cabs, discounted up to $12,000 off. GMC Terrain with a roomy cabin and pro safety, discounted up to $7,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payments for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlenSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, thank you for being here tonight. Really do appreciate it. We got quite a bit to talk about. We've been active, and some of you may know this already, but we've been very active on TikTok as of late. I'm finally coming around to the younger crowd, I guess, but we are on TikTok. We've been posting pretty actively there. We plan to keep doing so. So if you're not already following us, we really would appreciate you just going and checking out the TikTok. It's the same as my Instagram handle, at Tyler Edmond TV. If you need it, just go to my Instagram, go to my Twitter, you can find it. That said, guys, we have really been active there because we can interact with your comments pretty much directly. And I like that. I like the fact that we can come in and respond to exactly what you guys want to know about, right? We got a question today about Michael Harris. We got a question about Ozzie Albies and their struggles. Now, obviously, with Michael Harris, we're going to address this first. His injury tonight is completely secondary to what I'm talking about. However, Michael Harris, without a doubt, has struggled this year. And when I was asked about it, it was basically, how big of a problem is this? Is this something that's going to last? Or is this something that, is a slight adjustment and the second half of the season he's going to tear it up? I think that's more likely. All of his stats, for the most part, are down. His expected average is down. His barrels are down. All that stuff is down. But I think I'm not seeing, according to the sabermetrics, I'm not seeing anything clear where there's a drop-off in his performance or swing or anything like that. I think it is more that he's under it this much or on top of it that much, or he's hitting it right to somebody. He barreled one last night, hit it right to the first baseman. I think that's kind of where it is. I think it's more of a short-term, I say short-term, it has gone on for most of the season, but I do think it's short-term. I do think he will break out of it, but for right now, it's obviously very frustrating. I think for Michael Harris, you have to trust the process. If you're Michael Harris, you have to trust the process. He's doing a lot of the right things. He's a little late. He's a little, he mistimed and that kind of thing, but I don't think it's a huge problem. On the flip side of that, Ozzie Albies is a different story. Ozzie Albies has struggled pretty much all year. He didn't have the best year of his career last year either. He's a career 266 hitter. This season he's hitting 225. And it's not just us that's noticing this. Tim Hires, of course, the Braves hitting coach, has spoke about it. He basically told Ozzie and told the media that he told Ozzie that they got to change the approach. They got to let it fly. Those are his words, not mine, in reference to his mechanics. He's got to be more aggressive. There's been a lot of weak content, and I think that's kind of where we're at. And the biggest thing to me is that, again, every stat has gradually gone down. And it's not a specific pitch. It's not like he's not hitting breaking balls well. It's fastballs and off speed and breaking, all of the above. They're all down. For example, his average on a fastball has gone down from 272 all the way to 219 over the past couple of years. He's not making a ton of contact. And I would argue, as much as, it's easy for us to be frustrated and easy for us to be, picking apart players, I'm not going to do that. Here's what I'm going to tell you. In reference to Ozzie Albies, I think this is a buildup of injuries and coming back and figuring out yourself on the path back from injury. You got to think, this is a guy who over the past few years has had a broken foot, a fractured wrist, shoulder surgery. He's a guy who has taken on quite a bit in terms of injuries and battled through it, and credit to him, because that is not as easy as we like to, make do. A lot of times, as fans, we tend to, hear, for example, Chris Sale. Okay, broken ribs, that's 6 weeks. And then he should be right back to being Chris Sale, right? A lot of times it doesn't go that way. Michael Soroka is a perfect one to use. We heard it was going to be a year and a half for the torn Achilles, and then he was going to be back. Well, it took 3 or 4 for him to finally turn into the Michael Soroka that we knew him as. And right now, he's doing really well. I saw him the other day with Washington. He struck out 10 Dodgers. He's done really well. But it takes time to come back from injuries. And look, I'm sure there's people in the chat that have broken bones and torn, ACLs and things. Maybe you did something in high school or college or whatever. That's something that does not necessarily go away. You have to train with it and around it to be successful. And Ozzie has had to do that with a broken foot, a fractured wrist, and shoulder surgery. So, it's not just his offense. His defense has gone down too. A lot of people are like, Ozzie Albies is a much better second baseman than what he's done this year. I think it's a buildup of injuries, and that's concerning too. Because, again, every stat has gradually gone down since 2023. And that might be like, well, of course, Tyler, 2023, the Braves were just off, the mark. They were just completely unique. It was a unicorn year. I agree with you, but to see it gradually go down concerns me, genuinely, for Ozzie Albies. I believe Ozzie will eventually break out and be fine. I don't know if it'll be this year. It may be a challenging process for Ozzie Albies. It's something that's not talked about very often, but it is aired out that he's not doing well and people are frustrated, and I get it. But I think we have to, really focus on who this is. This is a guy who had the most hits in 2019. He's a guy who has been an all-star. This is a premier talent when healthy. I just don't know that he is right now, and I could be wrong. I don't think the Braves are going to come out and say, oh, well, if Ozzie was healthy, I don't think you're going to get that. I think you're going to get, well, I'm supposed to be better. And that's the right attitude for him to have. I'm telling you, it's our little secret, but I'm telling you, I think there's something going on with him in his recovery process. It's not day in, or one day and you're back to normal, or it's not necessarily the time for you to heal up. Sometimes you have to train your body back, and I think that's what we're seeing. Now, I say all that to say, Ozzie had a pretty decent night tonight, at least defensively. He also had a RBI on a sac fly. So, I think that there's, positives to it, but here's what I'll also say. I mentioned Marcell Ozuna a few weeks ago, talking about how he's playing through injury right now with his hip or whatever's going on with him. That's very admirable. Ozzie Albies did the same thing last year where he only hit right-handed because he could not swing left-handed because of his wrist, right? That's the guy who we're talking about. So it's not that he doesn't want to play good. He does, but the frustration is building. I also do think that having Ronald Acuna around will improve Ozzie Albies just in general. I think having a guy like that around, taking the pressure off, in a lot of ways, whether it be on the field or off, is going to help him a lot. If you're asking me when do I expect improvement, I think it's going to be a daily progression. I think it's not going to be we flip the switch and all of a sudden he's better. I think it may be a month or two. I think it may be next season. But he is good enough at the rate he's going that there's nobody else that's going to deserve that position. And to be honest, he is a dog. So we'll have to see what happens. But that's kind of my take on the whole Michael Harris and Ozzie Albies struggling in the lineup. For Harris, I think there's an adjustment to be made, or basically trust the process and hope it has a better second half to the season. And hopefully it starts, today or tomorrow or whenever he comes back from being hit by the pitch. But overall, I don't think his is a worrisome issue. I think it's more focus on contact, focus on average, and not necessarily focus on power. That all said, with Ozzie, I think this is going to be a daily progression, and I do think it's injury related. I don't think it's that he's injured. I think it's just basically progressing from being injured, and that takes time. So when we return, we're going to get to your comments, I promise, but we're also going to talk about the Braves bullpen because, believe it or not, they've been pretty good here lately. We're going to talk about it when we return.
In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glen Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. New Chevy Silverado 4x4 crew cabs, discounted up to $12,000 off. Brand new 2025 Chevy Equinox, the compact SUV with high-tech features, discounted up to $5,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payments for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlenSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
All right, guys, welcome back. Let's talk about that Braves bullpen because, believe it or not, at least entering play tonight, the Braves bullpen had been the best all across Major League Baseball since June 8th. And you might well be thinking exactly what I was thinking, which was, what is that, like 2 or 3 weeks? Yes, but improvement is improvement, and they have been better. One thing I did want to talk about, we can talk about Rysell. Rysell continues to stress us just a little bit even tonight. I don't know that he's necessarily earned the closer position, and I remember a time where Rysell felt like, you know, he was the guy that needed to be in that position because Kenley Jansen at the time was with the Braves, and he felt shaky, you know, and that was true. But Rysell was a guy you could kind of count on to come in and shut things down. And overall, I don't know that that's who he is right now. He's still very capable of being a reliever, but I don't know if he should be the closer. And I have, you know, appreciate everything that he's been able to do with the Braves. He's had a terrific few seasons. I hope he can find it. But I don't know necessarily what the fix is either, you know, because if it's something related to his arm, then I don't know. If it's something related to his mechanics or the way he's pitching, then I'm not sure how we go about fixing that, if I'm honest with you. I hope they can figure it out soon, but it's going to be a tough thing for them to do. That's just kind of my opinion, and, you know, obviously we're going to have to wait and see what happens. But to me, I'm going to say this, I think Dylan Lee would fit that role pretty nicely, especially after last night. Dylan Lee, I told you at the beginning of the year, I thought this was going to be the year that he broke out. I still think that, and not because of what we saw the other night. Dylan Lee has been really solid for the Braves for a couple of years. He hasn't got the credit because there has been the staple left-hander A.J. Minter. There has been Rysell Iglesias. There has been Pierce Johnson last year, kind of, you know, taking the front stage, and rightfully so. But Dylan Lee, there was a time where Dylan Lee got optioned to Gwinnett because everybody else was out of options. It wasn't because he was pitching bad. He's had clean inning after clean inning for quite a while. And he's a guy that I picked out in spring training, and I told you that I thought this was going to be the year that he broke out. I think we're seeing that live and in color right now. And I hate that it's at the cost of Rysell being shaky in the ninth, but I think Dylan Lee may be your guy. The problem is you can't pitch him every night. You can't pitch him tonight after he pitched 1 1/3. You got to save him for the latter part of this series. And as much as we'd love to use him every night, if you use him every night, you're going to waste him. And that's not fair to him, and it's not going to make you successful over the long tenure of this series or the season. So I do think that they got to make some moves at the deadline, because I told you that a few weeks ago I thought the Braves offense would turn a corner. They're starting to do that in one way or another. They are starting to do that. The starting rotation is going to depend on how Sale is and where you go from there. The bullpen's the one that I think is a definite, we got to make moves. And I think it's the biggest problem on the team right now. And obviously you can argue with me. Alex Anthopoulos disagreed with me. He said that the biggest problem was the offense. But out of all the problems, what's the problem we can fix without dismantling the team? I've said it all year. It's the bullpen. We didn't spend money on it in the offseason. We should have. I think we'd be a much better, or we wouldn't be a much, well, we would be a much better team, but also we'd have a much better record had we spent some money in the pen and gotten some guys who can shut down a game. Right now, we don't have a lot of guys that can do that. I mean, tonight is a perfect example. Here we are. We're up by 4 in the ninth, and Enyel De Los Santos cannot get the last out. Raisel Iglesias was struggling to get the last out. He finally did, but not without, stress. Had that been a one-run game, all of a sudden, what happens, right? And that's kind of what has happened all year long, right? The Braves will be leading by 1 or 2 runs in the 7th, and we're not feeling great about going to those later innings. That's just my opinion. I really think that they got to make some moves at the pen. I think they're doing the right things offensively. They're making adjustments. They're doing the things that are going to make them win, mostly being patient. I think if Michael Harris and Ozzie Albies could do what Ozuna has done, and that is take his walks, he got 3 walks tonight. That's just as good as 3 hits in my book. If he's on base, especially with guys with the speed of Michael Harris, he gets on base, that might be a run, and that's kind of where I'm at. I think the bullpen is going to be the thing that makes or break this season. Because you get to September and you don't have a bullpen, I don't think you make the playoffs. If you somehow do get to the playoffs, you're going to get beat in the playoffs. And right now, I think if we're worried about punching our ticket, which we should be, we got to punch our ticket, whether it be through the winning the division or through the wild card, one or the other. What about when you get there? Because right now, there's not a ton of options in that bullpen, right? Maybe, obviously, we mentioned Dylan Lee. You got Raisel, who maybe could pitch the 8th, but even that I'm not super confident in. Pierce Johnson, beyond that, there's just not a ton of options that you really feel like we're not going to have any problems this inning. And in the playoffs, everything is magnified. Everything is magnified. Obviously, you can have offensive struggles, but if your pitching isn't good, your offense doesn't have a chance. And that's kind of where I hang my hat right now is Double-A's got to make some moves to get relievers. He did get in Josh Brebbia today. Not the biggest move, but they're doing something to signal that we're trying to get better pitching. But that's kind of my take on it right now. And I hope that, come July 31st or before, I hope that we're talking about, hey, we just got 2 new relievers and they're really solid. And we'll see what happens. But a lot of people are talking about starters right now. A lot of folks, I've seen it on social, talking about possibly bringing back Charlie Morton, who's currently with the Orioles. Orioles didn't get off to a great start. They could very well be sellers. Charlie Morton, obviously a lot of history there with the Braves. I get it. I just don't know that starter is necessarily going to be that big of a concern if Chris Sale's good to go in 6 weeks. That's kind of the hand we're dealt. I think there's nothing wrong with getting him, but you may be better off going for maybe, a combo deal where you get a starter and reliever, where maybe you go to the Pirates, you get Bednar and a solid starter from them. There's a lot of different ways you could go about it, but I think you try to get something done where you help all aspects of your pitching staff. If we can get Grant Holmes back in the bullpen, which I love him as a starter, but I've told you from the get-go that I thought the bullpen was really going to suffer without Grant Holmes there. And that's kind of what's happened. Because think about it. Tonight, if Grant Holmes could have been called up to go pitch the 8th and the 9th, we'd have had no issues, more than likely. That's the benefit of having him in the bullpen. If we had another starter, or if we had a 4th and 5th starter at the moment, obviously you'd be able to do that. And right now they're using Grant Holmes in the starting rotation. Not the worst thing in the world if you have a really solid pen. Right now we don't. And we're kind of left with no choice considering AJ's out for the entire year. Reynaldo's out for the time being, could be out of the rotation for the year. And Chris Sale is out for the time being as well. when you add all that up, obviously Grant Holmes is going to have to pitch in the rotation. And he's done pretty well at it. I mean, he's done really well at it. But I just wonder, how much better it would be for the team as a whole if he was in the bullpen. That said, guys, we're going to go to a break real quick. After that, we're going to get to your comments. Remember, Super Chats do get priority. They get you moved to the front of the line. They also really do help the channel grow, and obviously they help fund what we do, and we really would appreciate any donations that we could get. No pressure, by the way, no pressure. That said, we're going to go to break. We're going to pay the bills real quick. When we get back, we're going to go through the comments.
In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glen Smith GMC in Opelika. New GMC Sierra 4x4 crew cabs, discounted up to $12,000 off. GMC Terrain with a roomy cabin and pro safety, discounted up to $7,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payments for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlenSmith.com. Get ready to smile. In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glen Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. New Chevy Silverado 4x4 crew cabs, discounted up to $12,000 off. Brand new 2025 Chevy Equinox, the compact SUV with high-tech features, discounted up to $5,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payments for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlenSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, guys. Again, thank you for being here tonight. Really do appreciate a lot of folks in the chat. And obviously, thank you again for being here. Again, coming off a terrific win for the Bravos. It's not every day that we get, a 2-game lead in a series over the first place Mets. I'm so sorry. The second place Mets, thanks to us and some other folks. Obviously, the Phillies still in our way, but the Braves are on a path, and they seem to be, again, turning that corner. Nicholas tunes in. He says, Braves are so back, and it does feel that way. Jake Hobby says 5-0 against New York now that if they can only play everyone else like they do the Mets. No kidding. Jameson Taylor says Matt Olson is the player of the game. I would argue Nick Allen, but Matt Olson did have a big hit. Anthony, I have not gone on the honeymoon yet. The wedding is in, what time is it? 10 days and like 1 hour. So 10 days. But a little over a week. So we got maybe one more stream before I leave, possibly. Maybe 2, we'll see. But we'll be gone for a week and then we'll be back. Jake Hobby says, will tomorrow be a little harder with Fuentes going again? It will be. Fuentes, obviously a young pitcher, and, anything can happen. But I would argue, I would probably say that Fuentes is probably going to need to be picked up by the pen, hence why we didn't see Dylan Lee tonight, and we'll have to see how it goes. But look, this is a guy who did pitch well in the minors. He's not, bad. He's just young, and, we'll have to see how it goes. Glenn says, hitting is still light. The Mets bullpen gift wrapped that game. Well, no kidding. The big 5-run inning was a big part of it. But we'll take it any win we can get, especially over the Mets. Jake Hobby says, hopefully Harris's exit was due to precaution. I really hope so. As much as he, has not performed up to his expectation, last thing he needs is another sideline. That's just kind of my thing. Let's see. Newman, hello Newman. How about Nicky getting 3 hits? Big game. Yeah, no kidding. On the go with CeeLo says just waiting for Frank the Tank's blow up. I got a feeling it sounds something like this.
Well, the whole season is falling apart. Ever since Michael Kay went out there and cursed him, and now Sanger's hurt out for who knows how long, and we're going to watch Frankie Montas come in. Frankie Montas can't get out little leaguers. And then we got Miguel here smiling as he gets tattooed. Blackbird getting tattooed. The Mets are going to give up 9 runs a game. 9 runs a game, and then they're Buster Bulls, and they're never going to get another win again.
in case you're wondering, yes, I do have a Frank the Tank button. We love Frank the Tank here at On Deck. Yeah, he had a blow up. He had a live stream tonight that had like 90,000 views on it on Twitter, by the way. Insane numbers. We're proud of Frank. He's come a long way. We were early watchers here at On Deck. I was watching him, I want to say as early as 2019 on YouTube, blowing up about Travis d'Arnaud leaving the Mets, going to the Braves, and having a great game against the Mets. So we've been watching Frank for a long time. Big supporters here, Frank. He has lost an exceptional amount of weight. He's working on getting healthy and bettering himself. And I genuinely do hope that he can learn to lower the blood pressure a little bit during these games. Look, I've gotten mad. You've gotten mad. We've all thrown stuff before, and, I get it. But he takes it to a new level. As my buddy Jonathan Robertson just super chatted, someone needs to check on Frank. If I had his number, I would check on him, but I can't. We love Frank the Tank, though. Let's see. A lot of folks in the chat. I'm losing my spot. CeeLo didn't stream tonight. What about that, CeeLo? I was looking for you, too. No worries. We're streaming for you. Nicholas says he had a huge game today, but he needs to continue to do it. Had way too many zero-hit games. I guess talking about Nick. On the go with CeeLo, streaming on Wednesday and Thursday. Vision Music Works. I'm glad you got the notification or you saw that we're live. You're here, and I'm very happy about that. If you don't know, Vision Music Works has been struggling on the getting the notifications that we're live, but I'm glad you're here tonight. That's all that matters. She says, I am a Nick Allen fan, been really rooting for him. Yeah, he gives me a Mark Lemke vibe, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's the big helmet or what, but he does give me a Mark Lemke vibe. He is a definite underdog, and he had a big night tonight. Jake Hobby says, he's talking to CeeLo. Newman says, sounds good. I'll try to tune in. Let's see. Newman says, Ozzie made some great plays tonight. Yeah, it was good to see. Nice turnaround. Let's see. Scroll down a little bit. A lot of folks talking about not being able to watch the games. Yeah, baseball needs to fix that. Scooter Puff says, have not been able to catch one of the lives lately. Season's been rough, but I sure am enjoying dragging the Mets back down to earth. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Jake Hobby says 9.5 back with Houston beating Philly tonight, which I have not checked the Phillies, so that was nice. Good to know. I'm glad. So we are 9.5 back. I guess we're 8 back of the Mets, something along those lines. Oh, Lord. I was just sent. How about we listen to Frank? Is everybody okay with listening to Frank the Tank? Is that okay with everybody?
It's over! There is no heart in this team! This team has no heart! It's over! They're gonna lose! They're gonna lose 70 of the last 80 games! 70! They're gonna lose 130! This is...
So that's how it's going in New York. Appreciate that, Jonathan, by the way. Newman says, seems like yesterday we were seeing him make his first start in the 2021 World Series. Who are you talking about there? I must have missed somebody. One Ron says, Harris, oh, God. Not the Tommy Lasorda line. Oh, he super chatted it, so I have to read it. Harris couldn't hit water. This is a quote for the record. This is a quote. If he fell out of a boat, I'm now starting to worry about him. He's supposed to be an all-star. Again, I appreciate the super chat, and I get the sentiment 110%. I do. Here's what I'll say. I think a lot of times we kind of jump to that. Look, baseball is a hard game, I couldn't hit water if I fell out of a boat. I can tell you that. But what I will tell you is I really think Harris is an adjustment away. I think he's right there. I did a deep dive. It's on Ron specifically for you. I'm going to put it in the chat. On TikTok, I did a video today where I basically broke down, my @ is right there, but I broke down the whole Baseball Savant page of Michael Harris and Ozzie Albies. So all of you guys out there, feel free to go check it out. But Ron, I'm talking to you. I basically broke it down in a way where it's, look, these are the stats where he's missing, and it's this much. He's under on these pitches. He's over on these pitches. I don't think he's making a lot of great contact. I think it's weak contact. And same for Ozzie, but for two different reasons. I think Ozzie's, battling recovery in a way, still coming off of that. I think Harris is mistimed. I think he's not seeing pitches well. And we're going to have to see what it is. And you got to think that to some degree it's trying to do too much. Trying to overcompensate for what he hasn't done all year in one pitch. When if he just focused on being consistent, maybe having a Nick Allen type night where he got 3 hits, I'm not so much worried about the home run numbers. I'm worried about that average and the on base and the slug. The homers will take care of themselves. If you get me some hits, I'll be happy. Another super chat, Vision Music Works. Thank you guys, by the way, on the super chats. Jonathan, Ron, and Vision. She tells y'all to go vote. Get out there and vote. Not political, sports. Get Acuna and write in Drake Baldwin. I agree. Drake Baldwin has, in a lot of ways, been a savior to this team this year. I did a video on TikTok earlier. Somebody asked me if I thought the Braves were going to trade Drake Baldwin. And it's because, let's put it in perspective, the Braves traded Shea Langoliers for, I believe, Matt Olson at the time. They traded William Contreras as well for Sean Murphy, if I'm not mistaken, or the other way around, one or the other. I get those mixed up. The same team, so don't be too mad at me. But they were asking, are they going to trade Drake Baldwin next? I don't think so. I think the fact that they were willing to let Travis d'Arnaud walk away on an 8-year renewal, on an $8 million renewal contract tells you that they believed in Drake Baldwin. It told me at the time they know something I don't, because why would you not bring back, number one, a fan favorite, number two, a really solid catcher, and number three, a pretty, prolific hitter for the most part. Why would you not bring him back? He's been nothing but great for the team. Little did I know about Drake Baldwin. I knew about Drake Baldwin, but not enough to know this is what we were going to get in 2025. I was thinking 26, maybe 27. The Braves trusted that they had enough in the minors one way or another, and they were right. So, it kind of just is what it is. Ron says, I think Harris's contact is the majority of his poor swing decisions at the plate. His plate discipline just doesn't seem to improve. It's funny, Ron, because believe it or not, and this is kind of what I talked about on TikTok, the stats don't necessarily go with our argument. Me and you, we've both seen like Harris swing over a slider in the dirt countless times for strike 3. We've seen it with our own eyes. And it's not a Mandela effect. That's happening. But believe it or not, it's not any more than what it was last year, according to the stats, right? His whiff rate is not exorbitantly higher. His chase rate is not exorbitantly higher. It's really just the fact that he's not getting those pitches anymore, right? He's swinging and missing just as much as he always did, but he's not getting near as many of the right pitches. He's fouling quite a bit of them off, right? They're in the strike zone, but they're not necessarily good pitches to hit. And what's going to change that is getting some walks. You let Harris walk about 5 times, where he's being patient at the plate, much like Ozuna's been. What do you think Ozuna's the biggest key to Ozuna's game? It was why he was so good in 2020. It's why he's doing so good right now. He's patient. He's willing to take his walks. Then you have to pitch to him at some point, and he tears it up. That's what's going to be the difference maker with Michael Harris. And that's the biggest thing. It's not that he's mistimed. It's that he's making weak contact, and he's not putting the ball in play at a hard rate, or at all, hardly sometimes. He's popping them up. He's grounding. He's not getting a lot of barrels. He's not having a lot of hard contact. And a lot of that, you're right, is poor pitch decisions. But it's also the fact that he's not seeing a ton of good pitches to hit, and he's not being patient taking his walks because he's trying to overcompensate. Not even just for him. Early in the year, I think everybody was overcompensating for what the team wasn't doing. When in reality, had everybody just been a little more patient, I think we'd had a much better stretch. And it's not just Harris. I think Harris is kind of the one that hasn't flipped, and you could add Ozzie Albies in there too. But really, it's Harris. Harris is the one where you're watching his at-bats and you're going, what are you doing, right? I've heard it all year long. But we're going to have to trust the process. He's going to have to trust the process and be patient at the plate. That's kind of what I think he needs to hear. If I'm Tim Hires, I'm telling Ozzie Albies, because he already has, you need a more aggressive approach. I'm telling Harris you need a less aggressive approach. And I think that'll help both of them tremendously. But, again, I'm not in the clubhouse every day. I don't know what's going on every day. That's just my take on it. But, we'll see. Again, thank you for the super chats from Ron, Vision, and Jonathan. Really got it started tonight. Remember, super chats do get you put to the front of the line. I don't know where we left off in the chat. But again, appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's see. Anthony says Montero is coming along. Montero, of course, Rafael Montero. He had a clean inning tonight. Yeah, he's been solid. He's been solid. I like watching him. Hopefully that'll continue. Let's see. Dylan Dodd looking solid. Yeah, I think he's been kind of a nice surprise. We covered Dylan Dodd in spring training. It was funny. It was one of my first times at spring training a couple of years ago. And I remember interviewing Dodd with the media after the game. Yeah. And it was a day where he faced like the World Baseball Classic team. I want to say it wasn't Puerto Rico. I want to say it was like the Dominican Republic. It was a really good World Baseball Classic team. And I'm not going to say he got shelled. That's disrespectful. He was facing Hall of Fame level talent, and he's never touched a major league mound in a real game. But, you talk about a guy who's very likable and happy to be here. I'm thrilled that he's finally found his way to the pen, and that seems to be the role that he's most comfortable in, and I think that's where we're going to see him really succeed. Dylan Dodd's been really good this year, though, and I hope that it, again, continues and we build on what we have, because he is a solid pitcher. He just has to have the opportunity, and I think his best opportunity is going to be in the pen. It's a lot easier to cover one inning than it is to cover 5 or 6, and I think that's where he's going to be successful. Let's see. Ron wants to know my predictions for Didier Fuentes tomorrow. I think you'll see a more composed Didier Fuentes. I mean, really, he didn't make a ton of mistakes in his first appearance. He just made one, and it turned into a 3-run homer. And that's a young pitcher. That's kind of what happens. I think he's going to be all right. I mean, look, he could get, blown up. But all in all, I think we're going to have to wait and see how it goes. I think with Fuentes, you're going to see, again, a more composed but still young pitcher. And he's going to have to learn, right? Schwellenbach, as good as Schwellenbach is, he's only been in it for a year, right? But early on, he had to learn. He had some growing pains. And we're going to see that with Fuentes. I don't know if Fuentes is going to be around for that long. I don't know if he's going to get sent back down to the minors. And that's not a knock on him. He spent one game at AAA. The reason he's still up is because Chris Sale got hurt. That's all it is. And I like what I'm seeing from him so far, but I don't know what we're going to see. I hope it's good. Dion Rodriguez. I don't think we've won a playoff series since the World Series. I believe you're right. I don't like to keep track of such nasty things like that, but I believe you're right. Newman says, we got to get in on the Orioles bullpen. Dominguez, Soto, and Bautista. Let's look at the Orioles bullpen. Then I'll tell you the move that I'd really like for us to make. The move that I'm most convinced of. I'll put it to you that way. Let's look at their roster for a second. See what kind of see what we're working with. Yeah, Felix Bautista would be great. I don't think they're going to give him up for just anybody though. Soto would be great, but that's going to be tough. Sir Anthony Dominguez, yeah, I like that. Scott Blewett is with the Orioles. He's been pretty good since he left the Braves, but I don't know that that's really going to be what we're going to do. I think the move that could really fix us in a lot of ways would be dealing with the Pirates, who, for the record, are not having a great year. I would want to go David Bednar, who I've wanted for a long time. Honestly, we have videos dating back to like at least 2021 of me going, If the Braves can get David Bednar and get him locked up and have team control, maybe get Brian Reynolds while we're at it. That was back then when we needed an outfielder. Now I'm more along the lines of, can we get Bednar and can we get Andrew Heaney? Which a lot of you guys are going to roll your eyes at Andrew Heaney, and I get it. But the reason that is because Paul Skeens is on that team too. They're not trading Paul Skeens, certainly not trading him for anything that we have, I don't believe. I'd be very surprised if that happened. I'd be pleasantly surprised, but I just don't think that's going to happen. Heaney right now is 3-7 on the year. You may be looking at that going, why would we do that? Well, he's better than what his record is, and it's because he plays on just a terrible team. And I think getting him could help solve the starting pitching problem. I mentioned that combo deal earlier with a starting pitcher and a reliever. Andrew Heaney and a closer and David Bednar, or a reliever and David Bednar, could work wonders on this team. And again, I don't know that it's going to happen, but Heaney has a 3.94 ERA in 82 innings pitched. Let me look at his FIP real quick, and I'll really be able to tell you. I haven't really done the digging on this. This is just an idea that I like. His FIP is higher than his ERA, so that doesn't bode too well. But it's just an idea that I like, the combo of starting pitcher and reliever. And really the get there, as much as I like Heaney, the get is Bednar more so than anything, because you'd be getting somebody who is a premier reliever, and I don't even know what his stats are this year. I guess I should look at that. But I really do like that idea of a starter and reliever from the same team where you make a combo deal. Maybe you get a three-way deal going on some kind of way. David Bednar's stats this year, he's got a 2.93 ERA, 39 strikeouts in 39 games. So his strikeout per nine rate, really high, 12.7. That's really solid. Obviously, and his FIP is lower, so it's 2.17. That's more apt to be what his ERA would be on the Braves, would be around 2.17. That's really solid. And it's tough to know exactly what will happen. Bednar is not a free agent until 2027. I got to think he moves, though. At least he moves. Maybe Heaney, maybe not. I don't know. But that's kind of the move I'm looking at going, if we can make that happen, that could be really good. Under the radar, level move. The other thing, though, about it is the Pirates have been so guarded on their pieces, right? Brian Reynolds would not move if Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig were traded for him over the past couple of years. Teams have tried everything to get Brian Reynolds out of Pittsburgh, and it just hasn't been enough. And the Pirates are kind of about that with everybody. It's not just Brian Reynolds. It's anything they have, they view it as really good. I still can't believe we got Richard Rodriguez back in 2020 or 2021. I can't believe that happened. I predicted that, by the way. But as we get closer to the deadline, it'll be more clear who's a buyer, who's a seller. And I think that's kind of how we have to go after it. The key, though, for the Braves, they've already said they're not selling. They haven't said that they're buying, but they have not said that they are selling. They are trying to get to the deadline and be competitive. If they can be 4 or 5 games back of the division at the trade deadline, you bet your bottom dollar Alex Anthopoulos is going to be on the phone making moves. And obviously, over the next couple of weeks, especially once I get back from the cruise, I'll be doing content surrounded specifically by the trade deadline. That'll be the majority of my content, I'd probably say, where I'm talking purely about possible moves or what they could and couldn't do. And I look forward to that. That's one of my favorite parts of the year. It's better than the postseason for me in terms of YouTube, because it just bodes well for content and it bodes well for viewership in a lot of ways. It's one of my favorite things that we do. We do have a super chat, though, from Maverick. Haven't seen Maverick in a while. I think the Braves should go after Cease at the deadline and trade Elder and Kelnick and 2 minor league players for Cease. All right, well, you did it. You super chatted, so let's go ahead and look at Cease real quick. He's only on that's interesting. He's on a 1-year deal, so but he's on the Padres, so I don't think so. The Padres are too competitive, last I checked. Let me make sure I'm not crazy. Let me see. 1-year deal, so that's but he's on the Padres, so I don't think so. The Padres are too competitive last I checked. Let me make sure I'm not crazy. Let me see. 1-year deal, so that's 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 1 I mean, they're only 5.5 games back. I mean, with Cease, I mean, if the Padres are sellers, I think that'll happen, but I just don't think they'll be sellers unless something drastic happens. For me, Dylan Cease, very good pitcher, no doubt about it, but this year he hasn't exactly blown the roof off the place. On the Padres, he's 3-6. He's got a 4.43 ERA. What's his FIP? FIP is like my Bible. I just believe in that. Well, I mean, okay, so his fielding independent percentage is 301. So that's solid. I mean, obviously we know who he is. He's 4th in Cy Young voting last year. He's been really good. And he's done a long-term commitment. He's a free agent at the end of the year. I like all that, but I just don't think the Braves are going to sign anybody from the Padres because, number one, he's a Boris. He's a Boris client, but beyond that, he's also he's a Padre, and I think they're going to be competitive. As good as that division is, and they are, I mean, it's a division with the Padres, the Dodgers, and the Giants are really good this year. And really behind the Padres is the Diamondbacks. Obviously, the Rockies are, they've gotten pedigreed by everybody, but other than that, it's a really competitive division. Probably more competitive than the National League East is the National League West. The Central's competitive too, but that National League West right now is super competitive because you have some of the highest payrolls in baseball and some of the best organizations. Those are not exclusive to each other, but we'll have to see. Maverick, I wish I could invite everybody to my wedding. I just can't. We're already at the limit. But I appreciate you wanting to come. I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate the super chats. Let's see. Nicholas says, I could see us trading Marcell Ozuna. Look, I did a video on that already. I've talked about it. It's possible. If the Braves are selling or if they're standing pat, that's your most likely candidate to be traded. He is a free agent at the end of the year. You're not losing a lot. In fact, you'd be losing something if you didn't trade him in a lot of ways. So, to me, I think that's an obvious move more than anything. Captain Spartan, is the fan base stopped overreacting yet? Tyler back to doing streams, and now Braves got my full attention since Louisville baseball is over. Well, we're glad you're back. We're glad you're back, Captain Spartan. I don't know what we were doing without you. I think everybody's still they're not overreacting. This Mets series has kind of brought us all together back to the unified, Frank the Tank watching fan base that we are. And that's been nice. That's been very nice. So hopefully we'll have to see. Jeff Barry says, I like how Tyler will look up stats mid-live stream. I do what I can for my people, okay? I do what I can for my people. I will stop what I'm doing if you super chat mostly, but I try to do it for as many people. But I do have to kind of stop what I'm doing and turn and look. But I don't mind doing it. I mean, you guys are here watching me. It's the least I could do. Justin, I'm not even responding to that, Justin. I love it, though. A lot of folks still talking about Harris and Ozzie. A lot of folks in the chat. What do I think we could get for trading Ozuna? If you trade Ozuna, here's what I want you to realize about trading Ozuna. If you trade Ozuna, then you've kind of given up on the season, okay? You're not fire selling. You're not pulling what the Rockies are probably going to do or what the White Sox have done, or you're not getting rid of everybody. Fire selling is when we traded Kimbrel, the Upton brothers, and that's fire selling. That's getting rid of everybody. You're not going to do that. There's too much value in the Braves to do that right now. But here's the thing. If you trade Ozuna, you're signaling to everybody that you're a seller, right? And the reason I say that is that's one of your best hitters on the team. He's, one of the best DHs in the game. So I just think at that point, you're signaling to everybody that you're a seller, okay? And when you're a seller, you're not trading for something that you're going to get right now. You're not trading for something that you're going to, get an immediate return where it's like relievers and starters and position players that you can use right now. You're probably getting prospects. The other reason I say that, whoever's trading for Ozuna does not get immediate. They don't get future help. They get immediate help. So if you were to trade Ozuna, you're trading them to a contender. That contender is not going to send you pieces like, ready-made relievers and ready-made starters. They're going to send you pieces like some AA players, right? And no disrespect to AA players. If the Braves are going to be competitive this year, that ain't going to fly, right? That makes no sense for the organization. So if you're asking me what do I think we could get for Ozuna, you'd probably get some decent prospects. And that's not going to want to be what you're going to hear, but I'm being honest with you. That signals you're a seller and you're moving on. Because unless you make a trade with a team who's mutually on the same path, let's say the Orioles, for example, who are kind of out of it, but not out of it at the same time. If that's the case, then, and I don't even know if they're a good example. Let's say you're trading with the Padres. If you're trading with the Padres, maybe you do an even swap, right? Maybe you trade Ozuna for somebody who's a free agent at the end of the year, but you need a pitcher, they need a hitter kind of deal. I'll be honest with you. Anybody that's hitting the bat or hitting the ball well right now, I don't want to lose on the Braves. I don't think losing Ozuna makes a lot of sense unless you're a seller. I had a short come out today. I think you probably saw it, where I was talking about the Braves could be a soft seller. What I mean by that is you're not completely fire selling, but you're trading Ozuna. You're seeing what you could get to maybe better your farm system or better the future. Basically, you're getting something because you're going to lose them if you don't do something, right? In a perfect world, let's say we get to the trade deadline and we just kind of come to the realization that it's not happening for the Braves this year. I'm not there yet. I'm not there. Let's just put this is a hypothetical, everybody. But if we were to get to the trade deadline, let's say we're 15 games back or something like that, something where Alex Anthopoulos in the front office, everybody just kind of goes, maybe this isn't our year. At that point, you're trading Ozuna because he's a free agent at the end of the year. If you don't trade him, you're losing whatever value you could have gotten from him. And that's just kind of how it is. That's how baseball works a lot of ways. Remember when Trevor Story, they didn't trade Trevor Story. I think the Rockies didn't trade Trevor Story a few years ago. They didn't get anything for him. They lost him to free agency. I think they got a draft pick or something like that. But that set them back so much. There's a lot that the Rockies do that let me come run the show for a couple of years. You know what I mean? Just let me come deal with it. Because signing Chris Bryant made no sense. Not trading Trevor Story made no sense. And then you didn't re-sign him. You didn't extend him. I think if you're going to trade Ozuna, the right thing to do would be to go to Ozuna prior to it, have a conversation, and say, look, this is what we have to do to get value for you. Would you like to extend beyond this season into next year, or we're going to have to trade you? It's not a threat, but basically these are the hands we're dealt. We'd love to re-up a conversation at the end of the season once we can in the offseason about signing another deal. But if you want to stay on this roster right now, we need to sign pen to paper for the next couple of years. Because Ozuna has been really good for you, and the turnaround for Ozuna has been phenomenal. So, it makes sense if you're not a seller, but not if you. It makes sense if you're a seller, but not if you're not a seller. Because any other trade, you're not going to get anything back. We'll have to see. Dion Rodriguez, who would we have to give up to get Bednar or Heaney? I think you get both. I think you try to get both there. To get Bednar, you're probably looking at a few prospects maybe. I mean, he does have a few years of control. I think Kelnick, Nacho, maybe a couple other AA prospects or something could get Bednar done. And I'm not a trade expert. I'm just telling you that's kind of how I view it. Heaney, because he's a starter, he doesn't have that. I don't think he has that many years of control. But he'd be tougher because he is a starter. He covers more innings. I think you could trade Bryce Elder for Heaney because Bryce Elder, Heaney's a free agent after this year. He's on a one-year deal for $5.5 million. Bryce Elder, which I don't know that the Braves would be interested in trading Bryce Elder. Bryce Elder is a free agent in 2030. So that might be able to get it done because the Pirates are out for the year. He's only on a $5.5 million contract. I think if you did a combo deal and you throw Bryce Elder in there, who's shown that he can be good, he's an all-star for heaven's sakes, that could help get that deal done. You throw in Bryce Elder, maybe a Jared Kelenic, and a couple of prospects. I think you can get David Bednar and Andrew Heaney. I don't think that's a completely impossible trade to make. There are some trades that I think just won't happen, but that is one that I think could happen. And it's not like we're getting, superstars. I mean, Bednar is really good, but Heaney is just an average starter, but it handles a problem. And look, I could be completely off the map here. But this is just how I'm looking at it. Well, that would solve a problem. It's not the best move, but it would solve a problem. It's kind of under the radar. Nobody's talking about it, and that tends to be how Alex Anthopoulos likes to work. Let's see. A lot of folks in the chat. Can we get rid of Verdugo? Man, if people were thinking that we'd be saying that in a month or two ago. I think Verdugo's doing okay. Let's not get rid of anybody just yet. Let's see how that could be somebody you throw in a trade. But to me, I think even Verdugo, I think you'd just be moving chess pieces at that point. Because Verdugo, if I'm not mistaken, is only on a one-year deal too. Yeah, he's a free agent at the end of the year. So Verdugo is another one of those pieces that if you trade, you're either just trading him to kind of lose some of the salary that you have to pay, or you're trading him to a contender, or you're just moving, like I said, chess pieces around. It doesn't make a lot of sense to get rid of Verdugo unless you're trying to open up a roster spot or something along those lines. So that's kind of how I view it. But, it can go a lot of different ways. Trade deadlines are weird. If you had told me in 2021 that we would have traded for Eddie Rosario, Jorge Soler, Richard Rodriguez, Jock Peterson, Adam Duvall, all at the deadline or maybe a little bit before with Jock, I don't know that I would have believed you. And had you told me that it would all work together like it did to form the World Series, I don't know that I would believe that either. I probably wouldn't have. I was very happy that it worked out. And once they made the trades, it kind of went, oh, yeah, that does make a lot of sense. That does fit what we need kind of perfectly. And it turned out really good, obviously, so we'll have to see. On the go with CeeLo wants to know, am I covering the NASCAR race this weekend with my job? No, I will actually be at the Braves Sunday for the finale of the Phillies series. I will be up in the press box for that. So if you're at the game Sunday, let a brother know. You got my social media. Hit a brother up, and I would love to come say hello to anybody out there. Never been to a NASCAR race, believe it or not. I'm a baseball guy, obviously. I also am a bit of a NASCAR guy, a little bit. My old apartment before we got engaged, my coffee table was a NASCAR tire. So I'm a bit of a NASCAR guy, but you'll see a couple of NASCAR helmets across the room over there. So I'm not completely against NASCAR. I watch the races, but I've never gotten out to a race just because I'm watching baseball typically or football. Something gets in the way. I've been asked to go, but just hadn't worked out, whatever the case may be. Now, if they had let me go to, or I don't even think it's happened yet, but the race that the baseball game that they're doing at the NASCAR track, I'd kill to go to that. That's like redneck heaven. You know what I mean? Like, how would I turn that down? But for me, we don't get to cover a lot of NASCAR races, and if we do, it's I don't get to do a lot there. I'm kind of confined. A lot of my coworkers have done it. I just haven't been asked, but I'm sure at some point that'll happen. But not this weekend. This weekend, I'll be spending Sunday up at the Braves game. Let's see. Corey Carter, Braves in 25, win 5 straight versus the Mets and lose 2 of 3 to the Marlins. We have this running joke at my work where, especially this year with the Braves, we have a guy at work who I love. His name's Kevin Roble. He's the biggest troll you've ever met. Don't let him find out what team you root for because you'll hear about it for the rest of your life. He knows I'm a Braves guy, and he knows other folks root for the Braves, and he's had a grand old time this year. Keep in mind, this guy's a Cubs fan, so let's just, only 108 years. But, it is what it is. Anyway, it's been a lot of how are you going to lose to the Marlins after you beat the Mets? I'm sure I'm going to hear more of it today. The battery, what a question. Is that a Mr. Wrestling number 2 mask? You know what? We're going to go get it. Yeah, absolutely. Hang on a second. I have never been asked that question. Yes, this is a Mr. Wrestling number 2 mask. It is signed, as you can see up there. For those of you looking at this going, what kind of flea market thing is that? I interviewed this guy, actually, a few years ago. I think I'm the last guy to interview him before he passed away. He was a wrestler back before WWE was really a thing. He wrestled Andre the Giant, Mass Superstar, big rivalry there. I interviewed him, too. There is a picture on the wall over there of both of them together. I had met them on the same day. I interviewed them both on the same day in a high school gym at some wrestling promotion. My dad grew up a big Mr. Wrestling number 2 fan, and we went and learned a lot about him. What was cool is I met Ric Flair about 2 months after that at an autograph signing somewhere. There's a picture of him right over there. But I met him, and I showed him the picture of me and wrestling too. His real name's Johnny Walker. And he goes, is that Johnny Walker? I said, yeah. He said hello. He's like, oh, my goodness. I mean, Ric Flair, basically broke out in tears. So really cool. But this is a really cool thing to have on the shelf. A lot of people don't know what it is. It's a good talking piece. I mean, really, obviously not the best base ever. Hobby Lobby special right there. But how else are you supposed to display a wrestling mask, right? So, really cool piece. I mean, I plan to do more with that side of the room. If you didn't notice, the Chris Sale video, I did that. I did it with that in the background, not this in the background. We have some different shots that I plan to show you at some point. Like, there's a whole jersey wall over here. There's a whole bobblehead village over there. I mean, stadium seats, you name it. It's really a nice setup, if I do say so myself. Really proud of the way it's turned out. I wouldn't call myself a hoarder. That's not really a good way to put it, but I have accumulated quite a bit of memorabilia, and I'm very proud of it. But I love, and I hate the chairs in a way, but I love that wall. Falcons fans, don't get mad. That's a blank Carolina Panthers helmet. My family's from Carolina, so it was a gift. But obviously college football, basketball, a little bit of everything over there. There's quite a bit of memorabilia just in this room alone. A lot of people don't realize how much is back here. That is a Hank Aaron portrait right there that is signed. So obviously really proud of all the memorabilia we've accumulated and wanted to display it. There's stuff that, I lived with my parents for a long time with all of this, and it was mostly in a closet. So to see it kind of displayed out in a full setup like this, in a full, obviously studio like this is really cool for me. So I appreciate you noticing. I know I just kind of rambled there for a minute, but yeah, I appreciate you noticing the Wrestling 2 mask, and it's not the only wrestling memorabilia I have, but it's probably the best piece, no doubt. Maverick says, can we go after Walker Buehler on a 1-year deal for Jaron Duran and Elder and Kelnick? Hang on a second. This computer's going to die. Let me see. Hang on a second. My laptop is literally on death's door. I should have brought the charger in here, so I'm pulling up the stream over here, so bear with me. Walker Buehler. I don't know. I've heard a lot about him. I've heard a lot of interest on Walker Buehler, and it could happen. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I don't know, though. I think for Walker Buehler, the Dodgers have apparently, kind of gained some interest, and I don't know if that's really where we're at, but, I could see that happening. I could see him getting moved to the Dodgers before I could see him coming to the Braves, although if I were him, I wouldn't want to pitch against the Braves really ever again, after his tenure with the Dodgers. But, very good pitcher. Could be a very, a solid get. I'm pulling up his stats right now, so bear with me. Let's see. So you want Jaron Duran and Walker Buehler. Buehler's got a 6.29 ERA. Obviously not on the best team. this year. The Red Sox, kind of struggling. But, anything is possible. Walker Buehler's definitely been good, but the Red Sox are in fourth place of their division. So, obviously just hasn't really turned out like I think they all hoped it would. His FIP isn't much better. I just don't know that really solves any problems. Jarren Duran I'm more interested in. I will say that. And obviously we have a few pieces. Jared Kelenic, Bryce Elder, like we mentioned before. Marcell Ozuna is an option, but I just don't think so. Duran, I'm interested in. He is a free agent in 2029, so he does have some years of control. But I think that kind of leads to the question of where do you go from there? Is Ozuna not re-signed at the end of this year and Acuna now a DH? Or how do we do that? Because to me, I think Ozuna is probably done with the Braves after this year pretty much anyway. And the reason I say that is because you already have a DH pretty much ready to go at catcher. I think that's pretty much kind of figured itself out. But, we're going to have to wait and see. I say all that to say I just don't know that I really am in love with either move because Walker Buehler, I don't think he's the fix right now. And again, I could be wrong. I don't know everything, but, his stats to me are too far off the course for me to really believe that that's where they'd go. I could be wrong, but again, I just don't think so. Aside from that, Jarren Duran, I just don't think fits the mold. I don't think he fits the team dynamic. And again, not a bad idea, just not, in my opinion, not where they're going to go. Jake Hobby wants to know what's wrong with Cubs fans. They are my second favorite team. Look, I was pulling for them in 2016. I have a Harry Carey ball over there. I have no ill will towards the Cubs. I have an ill will towards the people I work with. That's it. Trust me. On the go with CeeLo. I'll be streaming tomorrow night. Tyler, if you want to join, and if you're not working, and if you do the post game. You know what, CeeLo? I have a lot going on. I have to go get a marriage license tomorrow, but I think I can make that happen. We'll talk after this stream. I'll message you, and obviously we'll do the whole hookup and everything. So yeah, that'll be good. I'll see. I'll have to talk it over with the wife, but I think we'll make it happen. Captain Spartan, no Auburn stuff. I thought you were getting into an Auburn family. Oh, you of little faith. You of little faith. Hang on a minute. That is a Pat Dye helmet there, kid. I interviewed him a few years ago. Of course, I have something Auburn. I live too close to the school not to have something Auburn. Yeah, I got one piece. That's it, though. That is it. You guys know I'm a Florida State guy. I make no bones about it. There's a Bobby Bowden helmet over there, Nick Saban, Herschel Walker. At this point, I'm kind of just a college football fan. I like the spirit of the game and all that good stuff. I mean, at my deepest, truest heart, I am a Florida State fan, but they got to earn me back to being diehard. I'd say that. I can't live every Saturday worried about it. Nicholas says, I've got a couple Hank Aaron autographs. That's about it. Having a couple Hank Aaron autographs is nothing to shake a stick at. I'm proud of it. I mean, I got a Ted Williams up there. At some point I'm going to make a video showing off the room, basically showing you the whole collection. I have a couple of Hanks. I have the portrait, which is in that red border right there. That is Hank, and there's another one right there. So I have a few. That's kind of it. I think that's it on my Hank stuff. But yeah, I have quite a bit. It just, like I said, it kind of accumulated. A lot of gifts have been given to me, and I'm very thankful for them. But we'll have to see. Captain Spartan says, oh, I only saw Alabama, Georgia, and Florida State. Yeah, I know. But there is a Pat Dye one over there. There is a Pat Dye interview, since you brought up Auburn. There is a Pat Dye interview on the channel from 2019 if you're interested, if you're an Auburn fan. It's not the best interview ever, but it's up there. Who would you draft for the Braves? Prediction I just looked up has us taking Wake Forest. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I'll have to I haven't looked at that. I've been more focused on just the team itself this year because we obviously had a lot of ups and downs. That said, drafting a shortstop makes a lot of sense. That's kind of the one position, that we don't really have locked up. I wouldn't be surprised if we whiffed on that and decided to go for pitching, because you can never have enough. That's always how the Braves draft, always. But I think shortstop makes a lot of sense because there's nobody, all due respect to Nacho down in AAA, but there's nobody that I'm like, yep, that's our future shortstop. There's no Dansby, right? There's no guy that I'm like, yep, that's the dude. Austin Riley, we knew he was the future third baseman. Dansby, we pretty much knew he was the future shortstop. Same with Ozzie, same with Ronald. Most of those guys we pretty much knew, yep, that's our guy. Right now, Nacho hasn't really won anybody over. From what I could tell, I could be wrong. That's just how I see it right now. And he still could, but drafting a shortstop does make some good sense. Yeah, Jake Hobby brought up a good point. Whit Merrifield retired today, and gosh, what a player. So glad we got to see him in a Braves uniform before it was wrapped up, and obviously wish him the best. I wish he could have had a little bit longer career, but he did lead the league in hits, I think, 2 years in a row. So really, a terrific player. And the other thing is, changed the attitude of the team last year. Was a veteran player. I got to interview him, which was really cool, when they clinched the postseason, so that was really cool. But yeah, just a terrific player, and wish him the best. Corey Carter says, I once held Babe Ruth's bat. That's pretty cool. I haven't done that. The autograph, this is going to send me on a tangent, but the autograph that you want, there's a few. Babe Ruth's one of them, Ty Cobb, Honus Wagner, anybody like that. If you can get your hands on that, you're doing well. If you're ever in a thrift mall and you find a Thurman Munson autograph, you call me. You call me immediately. We'll split it. I'll just put it to you that way. Yeah, Captain Spartan, send me an email with that, just with that layout. I'd like to see it. Corey Carter, if you ever get the chance to go to the Louisville Slugger Factory, you should do it. Absolutely. I've been there twice. I've loved it every single time. There's batting cages you can hit with different guys' bats, which is really cool. I've bought a few things from there. Actually, you know what? Why not just show you? So the two bats on top of those shelves on the left one is Babe Ruth's model bat. It's not a bat that he owned, but it's his model. On the right is actually Ty Cobb. So some pretty cool stuff there. I also got a custom bat, stuff like that. But it's a really cool place. They have a memorabilia shop. I love it. I wish I lived closer to it. Corey Carter says, if I could ever get Ron Gant's autograph, I would love it. I don't know if I should say this on the air, but Corey, I believe that if he still works for Fox 5, I believe you just mail it to the studio. You can probably get a baseball card pretty easily. Dion Rodriguez says, I remember the original Mr. Wrestling, Tim Woods. I'm more of a two guy, mainly because I met him. Two gave me a lot of advice, mainly that I need to do Hindu squats every day. I have not done it. I'll let you know how it goes when I eventually decide to do it. But that was his advice. So everybody, go do your Hindu squats before you go to school tomorrow. But no, a really cool guy. And like I said, got to interview him. Got to introduce my dad to him, which is pretty cool. My dad is, I've got to introduce my dad to a lot of cool people from his childhood. And I don't think he realizes just how good of a kid I am. I don't think I should have to do Father's Day presents ever again. I've introduced him to Chief Nakahoma, Phil Necro, Mr. Wrestling #2, Mass Superstar. I think the only ones left is like Dukes of Hazzard. There's nobody, there's nobody else. Corey Carter asks if I've ever been to Ty Cobb's museum. It's in Royston, Georgia. I have been. The guy that used to be the curator is a friend of mine, Wesley Fricks. I interviewed him. It's on the channel. So Corey, you have some homework. Go look at the Ty Cobb Museum video. Just search my name and Ty Cobb. I'm sure it'll come up. But yeah, it's a really good interview. We did it from the museum. They got a lot of great memorabilia there. It's really, really cool. Anthony's getting a laugh out of Hindu squats. You guys, y'all have held on for a very long rant about nothing, and I really do appreciate it. We've been going probably way too long. We're going to wrap it up on that note. Guys, thank you for being here tonight. Really do appreciate it. Thank you for watching the channel. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for asking about, Mr. Wrestling #2 and Hindu squats. Thank you for, supporting us every step of the way. The super chats from Jonathan, Vision, and Ron, and Maverick. Really do appreciate it. We're going to try to do some more streams. Join us tomorrow. I'm just going to go ahead and say we're doing it on CeeLo stream during the game. We're going to do post-game stuff too. I'm just going to go ahead and plan to do it. We will be here. Huge series with the Mets. Hopefully Didier Fuentes can pull out the win, and hopefully we'll have a positive attitude coming into the stream tomorrow night. If not, though, we're going to be here anyway, and maybe, just maybe, we'll have a reaction, something like this.
Well, the whole season is falling apart. Ever since Michael Kay went out there and cursed him, and now Sanger's hurt, out for who knows how long, and we're going to watch Frankie Montas come in. Frankie Montas can't get out little leaguers. And then we got Miguel here smiling as he gets tattooed. Blackbird getting tattooed. The Mets are going to give up 9 runs a game. 9 runs a game, and then the Buster Bulls are never going to get another win again.
We love Frank the Tank here at On Deck. That's going to wrap it up. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Again, thank you for being here tonight. One more thank you before we go, of course, goes to our sponsor, Glen Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. We will, of course, be sponsored. They'll be sponsoring us all season long. We do appreciate them. Tomorrow night, I will also be shouting out a local Little League team coming tomorrow night. That'll be a special moment here for them, and of course, happy to do it. But that's tomorrow night, so stick around for that. And of course, we'll be here and we'll be ready to talk some Braves baseball. With that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time right here at On Deck.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.